Welcome everybody. This is Get the Most Out of ShareFile's features. We're going to hit on a couple things. Now, I will preface this that most of what we're going to go through is under our premium licensing, but we do have things like reporting and also our Outlook Online plugin that are, of course, for advanced licensed users as well. So certainly, if you are on advanced licensing, definitely would love you to stay because you could definitely tell if obviously premium is something for you that you could take advantage of for what we're going to go over today, especially the AI stuff. Most of our AI initiatives are under our premium offering. So just to, again, give you a preface on that. So we're going to talk a bit about project templates today. Projects is a premium feature where it has a more meaningful way of intaking of data, and we're going to show you how to template those things for, again, less steps that you have to take to create those projects. And also, we're going to go through some of the recent updates that we've had with projects, just to be sure that you're up to speed with what we've been releasing with projects. We're going to go through all of the AI options that are currently available within ShareFile. And then we're going to hit on our Outlook Online plugin. And again, just a note on that, we do have two flavors of our Outlook plugin. We do have our Outlook Com add-in, which is more of your localized version of Outlook, your typical Outlook that we've all been kind of used to for a while. And then we have the online version, more for those Office 365 users that are more in their online version, which is their web version of Outlook. One thing to note there is, Microsoft is aiming more towards doing more add-ins through Outlook Online than the Com add-in. So definitely, if you are migrating over to more Office 365, more of that online version, this is a great webinar because we're just going to show you how it works because it does differentiate a little bit from our typical version locally for Outlook. And we're going to touch on reporting. Reporting is going to be mainly in projects that we wanted to run through. Tepe's going to hit on that, but if we have some time, did want to just make sure you're aware of some of the other reporting that we have available. So with all that said, it is demo time. I am going to hand this back over to Tepe to share his screen to kick us off. Tepe?
Just wanted to start off by telling you what projects is. So projects is a premium and higher offering that we have that helps you collaborate with your clients or employees. And basically, it's a way to manage tasks, documents, any kind of document requests, information requests, and even just like commenting on files or keeping tabs of information through like a table or something along those lines. So first thing I wanted to show is how you can, use an existing project that you have and make it into a template. So next to the more options here, you're going to see an option to save as template. So this will make a copy of everything that you have in your project so that you can share it with your employees or clients later in the future and just reuse it over and over again. Then the next feature I wanted to go over is the new feature we have is just creating activity reports. So just showing you an option to generate a CSV of the activity that's been in your project. You can select the date range and just give it a name as well too. Now, new feature here within projects is going to be the Files tab here. We have the option to create folders and files in here. You can upload files. So another option we have now is to drag and drop. So for example, if I wanted to, I can drag and drop this file into the project. And if I wanted to, I can create a share. And the share option has, again, just like in ShareFile, you have the view only and download options. You also have the option to set client and employee users or employee users only. You have to make sure that the users exist inside of ShareFile first. And then you also have the option to set an expiration policy for the link itself, right? So now I can copy the link, I can open it in a browser and go directly to it, as long as you have access to your ShareFile account. And there he is, Ashley, one of my colleagues here. All right. You also have the option to co-edit like you do inside of ShareFile. I don't have, let's see if I can create a document here real quick. You absolutely have an option to, okay. So you can co-edit within ShareFile as well too. And let's see, I might not have it enabled right now. Okay, but yeah, you do have the option to co-edit within ShareFile as well. Next item I want to talk about is going to be the tables feature. So this is a pretty new feature as well, where you can create tables within ShareFile. You have the option to create comments in here. So I can ask, John, it's like, hey, John, have you had a chance to look at this? And then I'll notify John that there are new comments in here and he can check those out. So just right there.
Yeah, and Tepe, I think the big important thing about the comment section is it almost is like a chat with the client that you're actually working with. So it really does help reduce down on the need to communicate back and forth, say via email, because they would actually pop in here and see any of the changes that occurred and showcase, of course, just as Tepe noted there, is they'll see a comment so they can actually act on that right off the bat. So I think that's always fairly important as we're going through projects that comment is pretty essential. It seems like a rudimentary thing, but I've definitely had clients take advantage of that working with clients directly in projects. So it's definitely helpful.
Yeah. Another option we have now is going to be statuses or just drop down fields. So, this is set to not started, in progress, and completed, but you can customize this as needed. So for example, I'll go in here and then you can select the type of field that you want, and you can see the different options that we have. You even have like links or currency and such. And now if I go into, where did it go? Categories, I can create different labels in here. Like for example, you know, um, in progress, whatnot, as needed. And then another option we wanted to show is that a lot of these items can be templated. So for example, if I wanted to template the table itself, you can do that right here as well. Same thing with document requests. You can create a template of this right here. And then you also can do information requests. You can create a template right there as well too. So right here, you can go into solutions template, and you want to make sure that you share these templates with individuals as well too, right? So let me just make a duplicate here. All right, so you want to make sure that you give access to individuals by going in here and sharing it with certain users. So for example, I'm going to share this with John and then give him full control of it. You can set custom permissions here as well too if needed. And you can do this again with document requests, tables, information requests, projects, um, and even e-signature templates as well too. One other thing I wanted to show is going to be a new AI feature that we have, and that is going to be in the document request section. So when I go in to create a document request, you can go to the right-hand side here and do create with AI. And in here, I can, for example, say documents and select the due date, let's say by the 16th. Select these fields, and then I can say I need a document request for tax prep. On investments. And then our AI services will go in and generate a list of documents needed here. Yeah. And you can modify this as well too. You can ask it to tweak it if needed, or change the, the template if needed. You can also just go in and manually make the changes later on as well too.
Yeah, and I think the important thing there, Tepe, is I think this is a good starting place. If you're not sure what to say obtain from the client, it's really useful to actually help generate that list. But to Tepe's point, you can edit these responses in terms of the items that it lists in the description. So that's really important when it comes to that. Is that you don't have to just take what AI has given you and from there, you can actually modify what it has given you. And then obviously Tepe has showed you, you could save this as a template. So again, it's not hard coded to the point where you just have to go by what AI gives you. It's great to kind of, again, have this as a starting point if you don't know exactly what you're actually retrieving or looking for from the client. But that's a good
All right.
flow of it.
The more specific you can be with the request, the better it's gonna be. Right. I put in something very generic, so it gave me a very generic um, list of documents.
All right, so let's jump in and talk about AI. Obviously, AI is the hot topic of the year, and with Progress slash ShareFile, we are basically assuring that the AI functionality that we're putting out makes sense to you. We don't want to open the floodgates for everything AI and that it just doesn't make sense. So that's the big point of seeing how we release these AI features as we kind of go across the board here. But let's just first jump in now. As an administrator, you may, or I'm sorry, and I should reiterate, if you're a user of ShareFile, you may not see the admin settings here on the left-hand side. But the big thing with our AI functions is that you can actually disable certain AI features if you don't want them. So under advanced preferences, again, under settings, admin settings, advanced preferences, and then AI settings, you will find all the different AI settings consolidated into here. Again, they are on by default, so just be aware of that. If you hear any kind of marketing or feature release for AI, do understand that it is enabled by default. I know out there that AI can just be intrusive. Again, to my point, most of these features are something that you could take advantage of. They're not going to just say take advantage of your daily use in ShareFile. As I kind of go through these, you'll see the strategic way of how we're actually releasing AI and how we're using AI. So again, if you are adverse to AI, you could simply come in here and disable them, but again, they are on by default. So let's go one by one, kind of show you what each one does. The first one, I'll start at the bottom here, is our secure share recommender. This one is great to have on because what it will do is say, for instance, if I am going to go and let's talk about tax prep, since we're just ending tax season in a sense. Maybe I have a sensitive document that, and I'm an accountant and I need to send out or I need to share out to a third party or back to my client. You want to be as secure as possible when you're sharing that document. So for that instance, when we're talking about just personal information or PII, we take that seriously at ShareFile. So with this recommender, say for instance, I'm going to share this and I have something up here loaded, just some falsified information. But to that point, I have my name, my social security number, a phone number here. That's obviously PII. I don't want just anyone just to be able to see that. So if I'm going to be sharing this, and let's just take for example, when we're editing this share, if this was set to anonymous or public facing, you'll see right off the bat here is that you're going to get a warning that it may contain sensitive information. And then anyone can download what you're sharing. Because if I'm an accountant and I'm sending it off, maybe I'm not aware that I made this link public, or it could be the default option it lands on. So you will get that notification that pops up here. Now, it will actually pop up here again if you already are defaulting to the anonymous option. But again, I have it set a little differently in this account. But for an example here, again, if I did have this on public, it will actually tell you. And the nice thing about that is it will give you some details on what it finds within the document itself. So it does, of course, as you see, it found there was a name, a social security number, and a phone number that is applying to that document. So again, if you wanted to see the full detail of what it's finding within the document, you could hit those view details. And again, to Tepe's point, when he generated that AI list in projects, be sure to see if this is helpful or not. This really does help us critique in that feedback. If it is finding something, or maybe it's not finding the right information, be sure to give us a little bit of feedback here. It is warranted. It helps us in the back end enhance this capability and make it better. So now the one thing I would like to do is, hey, yeah, I want to apply recommended settings because, of course, I want to be sure that this is secure. So automatically, it will go and set some of the link settings in the backend. And as you can see, it changed this over to client employee users after sign in. If you're not familiar with some of the ways you can secure your shares, it's this option here where I'm dictating how the person that's getting this share, how they're able to view it. Now, again, remember, I had it on anyone before, which that means you don't need to have any kind of client access or anything into the ShareFile account. This is a public link. Anyone would be able to access that link and preview that file, or even in particular, I have the ability for the share to people to download this document. So with that being said, it did recommend that I change this to after sign in. So basically what this is saying is you would first have to authenticate with your client user before they can actually see this document. Now, there could be that you are actually having a client already created within your ShareFile account, or if they're new to the ShareFile account, the one thing I would advise about is when you do share, you can use the send to specific people. And that same option does adhere to here in terms of requiring that recipient to log in. But the good thing about the email option is if I set this to Tepe, and Tepe wasn't a client already in my ShareFile account, it will actually activate and step them through in the client creation. So this is just more of a side note, not particular to today's agenda, but I did want to make that a point because people might start to think, well, if I am requiring them to sign in, they might not have a client account. How do I go about adding them? It's either going under the people section and browse clients, and you can add a client here before you send that link to them. Or again, when I am sharing something, and you could use the send to specific people, and I could type in Tepe's email address, even if it's not in the system, because if I start typing his name, he actually already is in my system. But aside from that, if they're not, you could just type their email address in and send them the link based on, again, those recommended settings that you have there. So again, really useful AI tool because it does really help fill that gap is if you're not paying attention or you're just, wanting to get that share out right away, it will give you those warning signs before you actually send it out. All right, so let's go back over to our AI settings. And our next one is the document assistant. Now, Tepe just went over that, but just to recap very shortly, is this option controls when you're in a project and you're making a document request and you're creating a new one, you have that ability to create with AI. I'm not going to go through it since Tepe already went through it, but just note that option would disappear if you disabled that option. Again, I really do feel this is super useful, especially if you're using projects and say you're trying to figure out different ways to use projects to have a more meaningful way to intake data from clients. This is a great way to kind of start out in the list of items that you may need to retrieve from the client. So again, very useful. As we improve this, you'll see this be a lot more particular in terms of what kind of list it does give to us. But definitely worthwhile to check out if you are premium users and you're using projects. The last option we have here is AI setting in our AI settings is the AI powered document. I'm sorry, I should flip that around. The document request list was the one I just showed you. The document assistant is actually one of our newer AI options. And when you come over to, say, a folder, and if you either have a Word doc or PDF, I'm going to bring in this document. Again, because we're just ending tax season in that sense, I did take this for an example as a federal tax system. This document kind of goes through an overview of the federal tax system. It's about 25 pages long. Say you're somebody that's ingesting a lot of this data and you need to read through a lot of this material. There's a lot to it, especially something like a tax system like this. It gives a ton of reference information and can get quite complex for what you're looking for. That's where the document assistant comes into play, as you'll see a AI assistant at the top right. Now you see I already did some prompts just ahead of time so to save some time here. But the first thing you'll see when you hit that is it's going to ask you what you want to do for suggestions in terms of doing something with this doc in terms of AI. So the default is I could summarize this document. And as you can see, I asked it to summarize, and it will basically spit out what is a summarization of this document. The real powerful reason to use this is it will give you references. So you'll see these little numbered references here. And if you click on them, it will actually summarize a bit of what it just talked about in that sentence and just give you a little bit more of a high level view of what it's actually talking about. So again, especially with legal, when you're a paralegal and you're looking at a lot of evidence, e-discovery, it's a ton of data that you're mulling through. This certainly can help with summarizing some of that information within the doc itself. But as you can see, you do have other items that you can summarize here, or you can list the main points of the document. You can find action items for this document. So if somebody gave you things that you need to do, it will try to highlight those at the end. But I think the most powerful thing here is you can actually ask your own questions. And as you can see here, what I did previously was ask it if this pertained to 2024. It was very particular in that it is in effect for 2022 and not 2024. So it would give you a nice little answer there for your question. And then another one that I said is this real, right? But there's always a lot of disinformation out there. You want to be sure that this document is accurate. It is proper. It's not somebody just sending you garbage or solicit information, anything of the type of nature there where you need to validate that information. And this does appear to be a real document, as again, it would go through some of those reference points that I mentioned previously. So again, great way to start to ask questions. And again, if you're used to AI, all these prompts are pretty similar to what you use today when you're asking an AI model something. All questions, any question that you can ask it, it'll try to answer it as best as possible. course, just as a point, is that it can make mistakes. So check for accuracy. Don't necessarily rely exactly on this. But again, this is a great feature if you are trying to summarize and pinpoint some things within the document itself. Take a look at this. This is all readily available. Oh, one last thing to point out is this is also available in projects. So if, again, you're ingrained in projects now where you're looking at documents, Tepe did show how you could preview in there. You can use the AI assistance within that project as well. So just keep in mind of that. You will have all those capabilities within the projects. All right. Tepe, did I miss anything on AI? That's pretty much covered it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. All right, so let's move to the next topic, and that is our Outlook Online plugin. So just kind of start off with as a preface is that, again, we do have those two different options. If you do a Google search, you will be able to say, search for ShareFile for Outlook Online versus just ShareFile for Outlook. Again, these are two different applications. If you are using a localized version, as you see here, that is what you're wanting to use. That is the COM add-in version. Today, we're going to go through the online version of this. So if you're used to logging in through your mail on Outlook, you will be presented with a similar interface here. So this is what we're going to talk about today. There is some parity between the local version or the COM add-in version and the online version. So that's what I'm going to specify today to show you what's available in the online version. So let's start out first. Now, first, if you do have Office 365, you do use Outlook Online, you could definitely follow along to test this out, because I do feel that Outlook plugin really does help with just ease of use, less steps to take in terms of sharing. So the first thing we want to do is you could click on New to compose a new email. And the first section you're going to see over here that you want to focus on is the add-in section. Now, I already have the ShareFile plugin enabled, but of course, if you don't, you're going to click on the app section, and then you're going to click on Add Apps. From here, it will take you to a store, and all we need to do is type in ShareFile, and there we go. You're going to want to click on that only one there that was ShareFile, and you could review the overview of what this does. It gives you a little bit of a preview of what it looks like, so you can review that before you enable it. And it does go through some things like permissions that you would require to actually run it, especially also the version. That's always very important. You always want to be on the latest version. But this is one big thing about the app add-ins, is that it should be keeping it up to date as much as possible. So that's the nice thing. As we come out with new features or changes, you should be able to get that new version right off the bat. One other thing is, if you don't have the capability as a user to add apps like that, we do have a separate location where administrators can come in to get it for their organization. They will find that link in our main ShareFile for Outlook Online, and you do have a direct Microsoft App Source location where they can come in and get it for their users. So just wanted to showcase that. Again, if you're a user with a bit of a lockdown environment in terms of being able to add apps, I would reach out to your administrators who manage ShareFile for you, and you could give them this article, the ShareFile for Outlook Online. Again, you should be able just to find it by just typing Outlook Online add-in, and that should be the first link you click on, and then there's the actual app link that you can go direct to. Following that, as you can see, we have instructions on adding the app itself. So outside of this webinar, if you needed some reference, we do have all of those different documents listed here already. So going back, since again, I already have this set up, we're just going to come back into Outlook. And then again, we're going to compose a new message. And now you should see the share file option appear. If you don't see it in the bar, it could be that your resolution might be a little lower. You might see it, it's kind of squinched in. It does form to how many apps that you have, but you can simply click on apps, and it should show the app ad once you did add it. So you can always just click it, and that will bring the contents of what you could do with the plugin. Now, the first thing you'll notice is you might think to yourself, well, I haven't done anything to authenticate myself. So that first step that you take, if you do choose send files, this little window on the right-hand side will pop up and it will ask you for your subdomain. And for instance, like our subdomain that we were just testing with was sharefile.rocks.sharefile.com. You would just need to put in, say for my instance, ShareFile rocks. So be sure you put that in, and then it's going to ask you for your credentials to log into your ShareFile account. So that's all you should have to do. Once it authenticates, it should take you to this next screen to be able to share files. Now, you'll see at the top here, you have the ability to change how the share is done. You will see that the first option, email recipients, sign in required. I would say this is probably by far the one option you want to default to. That is by default what we set on the administrative settings in Outlook, in the Outlook settings itself. Because what this setting does is, going back to my previous mention, if Tepe wasn't already a client within my instance and I'm sharing something with them, this option would actually allow him to sign up as a client when I send the share out. If you didn't want that, you still do have the anonymous options if they're available in your instance. Your administrator may have turned off anonymous options, but again, you would want to be sure that email recipients is checked, because again, if you aren't, that person isn't a client already, it would step them through creating their client account during that process where they're clicking on the share. Then you're going to see your access expires. So this is based on just the expiration of the link itself. And then most importantly, notify me when the link is accessed. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like on the back end there when you are notified. It's always very important. You want to know when that person accesses that link. So now I can convert attachments if I wanted to. So for this instance, if I already had attachments, it can automatically convert them into shares. But from here, what I could do is I can drag and drop items directly into here, and it will actually create that share for me. I could continue to add more items if I wanted to. It's not just a one item per email. So I can either choose from my device, which will open up your Windows browser, or you could choose from ShareFile. These are items that are already existing in my ShareFile account. So say, for instance, in my personal folder, there's those folders that I kind of showed you earlier. And again, I can attach other items within the single email that I'm sending out. So once I am finished, I click on attach. That's going to solidify me sending those items. And then I'm going to start typing in who I want to send it to. Let's send this over to John Doe. A share. And again, you could make a message in here. You can do other things that you're used to in terms of having it as high priority. All those things are normal within Outlook. The only thing we're doing here is allowing us to create a share within the composed email here. So once that's ready, I can send that out. That will send out the email. And then let's look at the client that's getting it. Let's look at his mailbox. You can see I just got that email in, and it's those two files that I attached. And all we would have to do here is open those up. And now I have access. Now, one step that you may say I missed, because I did require it to sign in. I was already logged in with this client account, but if they weren't logged in, it would ask them to authenticate if they're already a client. Or to my point earlier, if John Doe wasn't already a client, it would first step them through in creating their client account before they can access the files. And then all I could do now here is just I could select and download the files if I will locally, or if I just wanted to preview, like this is our security white paper, I could simply look at the content and I'm good to go. Now, if you recall, I did have it tell me to notify me when those emails, or I'm sorry, that share was accessed. This was a previous one I did, but I did get notified that John Smith did come in they were able to look at the files and they accessed it at a certain time period, and it did notate what files they were able to access. And I could just jump right to the folder if I wanted to investigate any further. So aside from just sharing, we do also have the capability of requesting files. Same thing here is we can change who can access it, just like we did a share. Big one you want to always look at is where the upload location is. So again, if I'm sending this over to John Smith, I don't necessarily want to go to my default file box, which is not necessarily a folder. I want to go to a different folder, say under my personal folders and under agreements. I want them to upload an agreement that they owe me. And then I could select and I can request. There you go. That will create an upload request link for you directly in the email, and you don't have to do anything else. So let's take John Smith again as an example and send that off. And now John Smith will get that email that require them to upload information that you've been possibly asking for. And there goes request link. You can see all they need to do is click on that request link. That opens it up. And now they're able to upload the data that you're actually requested from. So very simple couple steps to request files and to share. But let's just talk about the last couple options here. I did want to talk about one other thing is encrypting email. This was actually something we didn't have for a bit on the online version, which was really popular in our COM add-on in the localized version, is being able to encrypt the email. Your data is encrypted at rest and in transit already. What this is doing is it's encrypting the message of the body of the email itself. So this, when say John Smith gets this, they are required to log into their account, and it would actually open up the message in a window preview, window box, and it would actually allow them to see the message. But only John Smith would be able to actually see this message and no one else. So again, the encryption option is very particular if you are, say, putting something sensitive within the body of the message that you don't want anyone else to see. So it just gives you another extra layer of protection. And then lastly, we can always go to settings over here. We have, as you saw before, the attach and the request settings. You also have encryption settings. So when you do encrypt the message, those are separate from just creating a share or just a regular request link. So you do have those settings if you wanted them here. Outside of that, we do have some privacy terms of use stuff that if you need to take advantage of, you can on the right-hand side. But that's it. Very easy. It will help you tremendously if you're an Outlook user to really get that share across very easily, especially when you're an online user and you're traveling. It makes more sense that if you're using that Outlook online tool, because you have to go through a browser, this is really just an easy way to get those shares and request links out. Super simple without having to log into your account every time. Take advantage of this right away. Again, we have those couple flavors. So if you're not using the Outlook online version, you could always take advantage of our localized COM add-in version as well. All right. So there's one last thing I wanted to go over, and that is more around, let me bring up the right window. There we go. Is how to reach us in terms of resources. One thing I wanted to show you that's always very helpful is if you're an administrator and possibly outside of administrators, depending on your account, you will see down below is your resource center, and you will see a contact your success engineer. This is really cool. This is me. Yes, I am a human. I'm not a bot. I'm not AI talking to you. This is really more personable help with training, any kind of technical guidance. Like we have this webinar today. If you want to learn more about, like, say, AI features, projects, the Outlook Online plugin, reach out to us. That's what we do as a customer success engineer. We want to be sure that you're taking advantage of every tool within ShareFile. And if you're not sure of what one tool does or a feature does, definitely give us a ring. That's what we do. We want to be sure that you're informed as much as possible. We love to take in training sessions, personalized webinars, technical guidance if you have those technical questions that aren't really necessarily support related. definitely give us a ring. We'd love to kind of meet with you and talk through your account and use cases. Our support site has been greatly updated since you may have seen it. We have a couple different things here. Is we do have some getting started guides, some documentation. We do have a status page to let you know if there's any issues going on with ShareFile right now globally. Definitely want to bookmark that one. One important one though is our community. We have extensively added more folks here helping answer questions for you in our community section. Great place as a resource to look for things that might be happening to you that are known, or if you just have an enhancement request or anything of that sort of nature, we do have that capability. If it is enhancement request, by the way, there is a feature request section up here that you can go to and submit your feature request. These are items that our product teams do look at and help enhance along the way. Furthermore, if you do have something broken, something errors out, you do have support down at the bottom right here. It's a chat feature, which we do have real humans in the back end, but the great thing that we do ahead of time is ask a lot of those questions and be sure we're hitting the right categories for what you're having issues with. And as you can see, we also have certain announcements. If it's something that's globally known, they will showcase here. So just to keep you informed, if you're reaching out to support for something that's known, we typically post it in the chat before you start talking to us. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great one, and see you on the next one.